People have been scanning the surface of a Scottish lake for centuries in search of the Loch Ness monster. This weekend, there is a decidedly more ambitious effort underway to see if there's any truth to the legend.
For decades, blurry photographs and shaky videos have fueled the legend of the Loch Ness monster. But now, one man claims to have captured the clearest Loch Ness monster images ever taken. His camera didn't just catch another shadow in the waves, it produced something so sharp and unsettling that experts were left with more questions than answers. When analysts decided to zoom in, the images revealed shocking details that sparked both excitement and fear.
We think it's the first potential sighting of 2025. It's absolutely fantastic. It really looks like something is bulging out from underneath the water.
Could this finally be the proof of the Loch Ness monster? Or are these terrifying images just another chapter in a story that never ends? Let's take a look. A legend reawakened. The story of the Loch Ness monster is older than photography, older than newspapers, and older than most recorded history in Scotland. Accounts of a mysterious beast lurking in the Highland waters stretch back to the 6th century, when St. Columba reportedly drove away a water beast in the River Ness. Over centuries, whispers turned into folklore, and folklore into obsession. By the 20th century, Loch Ness monster sightings had become an international phenomenon. From the Spicer's description of a strange creature crossing the road in 1933 to Arthur Grant's plesiosaur-like sketch in 1934, the narrative remained consistent. A massive dark body with a long neck breaking the surface of the loch. Each retelling carried the same mixture of awe and fear, cementing the monster as more than myth. It became a cultural symbol. The loch itself is a key part of the mystery. Spanning over 22 miles with depths reaching 788 feet, its waters are almost black from peat runoff. Visibility below the surface is minimal, and sharp trenches twist unseen beneath the waves. To many, this is the perfect hiding place for a creature beyond ordinary explanation. Scientists agree the geography invites speculation. It's deep enough to conceal large objects, remote enough to avoid constant human interference, and unpredictable enough in weather and currents to distort what the eye perceives. Even in modern times, the fascination has not faded. According to the Loch Ness Monster Sightings Register, more than 1,000 reports have been logged, with new claims emerging every year. In fact, the first confirmed sighting of 2025 occurred in January, when a visitor at Dores Beach described a large, dark mass moving under calm waters. Staff at the Loch Ness Center called it particularly captivating, with conditions so perfect that it was hard to dismiss. That moment reignited global attention, reminding people that the mystery of Loch Ness remains unsolved. It also set the stage for what came next. Later that same year, another sighting would not only stir curiosity but produce photographic evidence unlike anything before. The difference this time was clarity. Where past images showed indistinct shadows or distant ripples, the new photographs captured detail, lines, textures, and a shape eerily consistent with decades of eyewitness descriptions. And when investigators decided to take a closer look, zooming in on the images, they found something both extraordinary and disturbing. For many, the legend had been reawakened. What once seemed like folklore was suddenly back at the center of discussion, leaving scientists, skeptics, and believers all asking the same question. Had someone finally captured undeniable proof of the Loch Ness monster? The man behind the lens. Every famous Loch Ness monster sighting has a witness at its center, and in this case, it was an ordinary man who found himself in an extraordinary situation. Unlike seasoned cryptozoologists who spend years camping along the loch's shores, he wasn't hunting for evidence. He was simply visiting the highlands, camera in hand, when something unexpected disturbed the still water in front of him. Eyewitness accounts often depend on the credibility of the individual. In this case, his background mattered. He wasn't known as a hoaxer or someone chasing publicity. Friends described him as practical and down-to-earth, with no particular interest in myths or monsters. That detail alone gave weight to what he captured. For many, the fact that this wasn't a man chasing headlines made his story harder to dismiss. The conditions of the sighting also added credibility. The incident took place near Doris Beach, a stretch of shoreline often favored by those hoping to catch a glimpse of Nessie. On that particular day, the water was unusually calm, a rarity in a region where sudden gusts of wind and passing boats usually disturb the surface. According to staff at the Loch Ness Center, such stillness creates the best opportunity to notice unusual movements, and that is precisely what happened. Standing only a few meters from the waterline, the man noticed a ripple unlike the others he had seen that morning. At first glance, it could have been a submerged log, or perhaps a large fish breaking the surface. But the ripple grew, forming a distinct line as if something sizable was pushing from below. Instinctively, he lifted his camera and began taking photographs in rapid succession. Within seconds, the disturbance vanished, leaving only widening circles on the loch's surface. It wasn't until he reviewed the images later that the significance became clear. Unlike the usual blurred or distant shots associated with alleged Nessie sightings, his photos were sharp, well-framed, and captured under rare, perfect lighting. The dark outline rising above the water was not easily explained away as debris or a trick of the waves. When he shared the images, experts immediately noted how unusual they were. "It really shows the wave," said one Loch Ness Center spokesperson. "There is clearly a dark mass pushing up beneath it." Online, reactions ranged from fascination to skepticism, with many calling it the clearest Loch Ness monster images in modern history. The man himself remained cautious. He didn't claim to have captured proof of the Loch Ness monster. He simply stated what he saw and left the analysis to others. Still, his photographs carried weight because they showed detail that countless previous attempts had failed to deliver. What no one expected, however, was what analysts would find when they decided to zoom in. That closer inspection would take the mystery from intriguing to truly unsettling. The clearest Loch Ness monster images. For nearly a century, the Loch Ness monster has been associated with blurry photographs, shaky videos, and eyewitness sketches that left more to the imagination than they revealed. That pattern makes this recent development even more significant. For the first time, a set of photographs emerged that many described as the clearest Loch Ness monster images ever taken. The photos, captured in rapid sequence, show a section of the loch's surface with a distinct dark mass breaking the water. The outline is sharper than previous attempts, with edges clearly defined against the reflective stillness of the loch. In one frame, a curved rise appears above the surface, resembling the long body or back often described in Loch Ness monster sightings. In another, a narrow, upright shape pushes forward, suggestive of the elongated neck reported in historical accounts. What sets these images apart is not only their clarity, but also the conditions under which they were taken. The lighting was natural and even, without the distortions caused by fog or rain. The water was calm, creating a mirror-like surface that made the disturbance stand out with unusual sharpness. The photos were also taken at close range, eliminating the common criticism that most Nessie images are captured from far across the loch, where perspective can deceive the eye. Experts and enthusiasts who reviewed the images immediately noted how closely they resembled decades of eyewitness testimony. The smooth, dark surface mirrored the descriptions given by witnesses as far back as the 1950s, including the Greta Finley account, where she described a shiny, snail-like sheen on the creature's skin. The alignment of smaller ripples behind the larger shape hinted at something substantial beneath the water, something bigger than a fish or drifting debris. Public reaction was swift. Within hours of being shared online, the images went viral, sparking debates across social media and news outlets. Some called them the most convincing photographs of Nessie since the legend began. Others argued that the shapes could be attributed to seals, submerged tree trunks, or the wake of a passing boat. But even skeptics admitted the quality of the photographs made them harder to dismiss than the typical grainy images of the past. The possibility that these might be the clearest images ever taken raised the stakes considerably. If authentic, they would represent one of the most compelling pieces of visual evidence in the search for proof of the Loch Ness monster. Still, the true turning point came not from the initial images themselves, but from what happened when investigators decided to study them more closely. Once experts began to zoom in, They uncovered shocking details that transformed an already compelling story into something unsettling. Global shockwaves and shocking details. When the photographs first surfaced, they spread faster than almost any Loch Ness monster sighting in recent history. Within hours, international outlets reported that a man had captured what many were calling the clearest Loch Ness monster images ever taken. Headlines used words like historic, terrifying, and unexplainable, reflecting the intensity of the public response. Social media only amplified the frenzy. Hashtags connected to the Loch Ness monster trended worldwide, with users sharing their theories about what the images might show. Some insisted the photographs were undeniable proof of the Loch Ness monster. Others claimed they revealed nothing more than a trick of the water. The debate was immediate, fierce, and widespread, mirroring the decades-long divide between skeptics and believers. What made these images stand out wasn't just their clarity, but the unsettling details that emerged on closer inspection. In one photograph, zooming in on the main shape revealed a texture that seemed smoother than fish scales, yet darker than driftwood. Another showed what appeared to be a smaller rise just behind the main figure, suggesting either a body trailing beneath the surface or a second object moving in unison. The alignment of these shapes reignited discussion about whether Nessie could be larger than previously believed, or even part of a group. For cryptozoologists, these were terrifying images. The details echoed past eyewitness reports with striking accuracy. Long, curved humps, a rising neck, and a mass that appeared to displace the water around it. These features were consistent with testimony spanning nearly a century, giving the photographs a historical weight that was difficult to ignore. Skeptics, however, cautioned against drawing quick conclusions. Marine experts suggested that under certain conditions, waves from passing boats can create optical illusions that look like moving shapes. Others argued that a seal or large sturgeon could account for the disturbance. Yet even these alternative explanations struggled to account for the sharpness of the photographs. Unlike previous sightings, which could be dismissed as vague blurs, these images were distinct enough to demand serious consideration. The international fascination only grew as experts began running the photos through digital analysis tools. Early pixel mapping suggested there were no obvious signs of manipulation, reducing the likelihood of a hoax. With the images holding up under scrutiny, speculation intensified about what might be lurking in the depths of Loch Ness. The shockwaves reached beyond Scotland. News outlets in the United States, Europe, and Asia picked up the story, drawing comparisons with other famous cryptid legends. The sense of mystery was heightened by what analysts hinted at but refused to fully reveal: that zooming in on the photographs had uncovered something stranger than expected. At that point, curiosity shifted from the images themselves to the question of what was being hidden beneath their surface. The real story, it seemed, was only beginning to unfold. The science of scrutiny. Once the photographs began circulating, speculation quickly gave way to analysis. If these were truly the clearest Loch Ness monster images ever taken, they needed to withstand scientific examination. Both independent researchers and experts linked to the Loch Ness Center began subjecting the images to modern tools rarely available in earlier decades. The first step was digital authentication. Forensic imaging specialists examined the files for evidence of editing or manipulation. Pixel mapping, a method that identifies inconsistencies within digital images, revealed no clear signs of tampering. The lighting, reflections, and shadows within the photographs appeared natural and consistent with the conditions reported that day near Dorez Beach. This was significant because many past photographs of alleged Nessie sightings had been dismissed as staged or altered. Next came the study of scale and motion. By comparing landmarks visible in the background of the photographs with known measurements of the shoreline, analysts estimated the disturbance in the water to be several meters long. That figure placed it well outside the size range of local fish species. Motion blur analysis of the ripple patterns further suggested that whatever caused the disturbance was moving steadily beneath the surface rather than drifting passively. Marine biologists were brought in to provide possible natural explanations. Some argued the shape could be consistent with a seal surfacing or a large sturgeon moving near the waterline. Others noted that the depth of the loch near the sighting location would make those scenarios less likely, since seals rarely appear that far inland, and no sturgeon populations have ever been confirmed in Loch Ness. Even so, experts were cautious, emphasizing that unusual water behavior can easily be misinterpreted. Cryptozoologists, by contrast, highlighted the similarities between the photos and historic eyewitness reports. The smooth surface of the dark mass mirrored accounts dating back to the mid-20th century, particularly the Greta Finlay encounter of 1952, which described a snail-like sheen on the creature's skin. The alignment of smaller ripples behind the main shape was interpreted as evidence of a large submerged body pushing forward. The decision to zoom in on the images marked a turning point. Advanced image enhancement techniques revealed details not immediately visible to the naked eye. Subtle lines and textures appeared across the dark surface, resembling patterns not typically associated with driftwood or simple wave formations. Some experts describe the enlarged sections as unnerving and difficult to classify. Yet even with technology providing sharper views, consensus remained elusive. To some, the zoomed-in frames brought the world closer than ever to proof of the Loch Ness monster. To others, they were simply ambiguous, clearer than before, but not definitive. Still, one fact was undeniable. These photographs were unlike anything previously documented at Loch Ness. And the more closely experts examined them, the more unsettling the mystery became. The next stage of analysis would turn intrigue into something far more disturbing. Terrifying images when they zoom in. The photographs were already unusual for their clarity, but it was only when analysts decided to zoom in that the real controversy began. At standard resolution, the images showed a dark shape breaking the calm surface of the loch. Enlarged and enhanced, however, they revealed unsettling details that few were prepared to see. In one frame, the main rise in the water displayed a surface that looked unnaturally smooth, almost rubber-like, reflecting light in a way inconsistent with fish scales or wet vegetation. The more closely the image was examined, the more it resembled the descriptions passed down through decades of eyewitness reports. A slick, curved mass, broader than expected, and disturbingly symmetrical. Another photograph, when magnified, revealed a sharper outline at the front of the shape. Some described it as the suggestion of a neck or elongated form pushing upward, while others thought it resembled a ridge or fin. Either way, it was far more structured than the random turbulence one might expect from a passing wave. Perhaps most unsettling were the faint shadows visible beneath the surface. Enhanced analysis revealed lines trailing behind the main disturbance, creating the impression of something larger hidden below. To cryptozoologists, these faint outlines hinted at the body of a massive creature, with the visible section being only the smallest part breaking the waterline. To skeptics, they were merely optical illusions caused by light refraction in the dark, peat-stained water. The emotional reaction to these magnified details was immediate. Those convinced of Nessie's existence pointed to the terrifying similarity between the zoomed-in images and witness sketches from as far back as the 1930s. The long, smooth form, the unnatural sheen, and the impression of immense size seemed to align too closely with historical testimony to ignore. For skeptics, the terror lay not in what was visible, but in how easily the human mind could impose meaning on ambiguous shapes. They warned that pareidolia, the tendency to see patterns in random data, could explain why so many viewers thought they saw fins, humps, or necks in the grainy enlargements. Yet even some skeptics admitted the photographs were unusually clear compared to prior evidence, and therefore harder to dismiss outright. Regardless of interpretation, the zoomed-in frames left a lasting impression. To many, these were not just images of rippling water, but terrifying images that raised more questions than they answered. What exactly had been captured beneath the calm waters of Loch Ness that day? The debate shifted from whether the photographs were genuine to whether they could finally serve as proof of the Loch Ness monster. And that question, lingering and unresolved, became the focus of the next stage of analysis. Proof of the Loch Ness monster? When the photographs were first described as the clearest Loch Ness monster images ever taken, Many assumed they would either confirm or dismiss the mystery once and for all. Yet after weeks of scrutiny, the debate only deepened. The central question remained: had this man finally provided proof of the Loch Ness monster? Supporters of the Nessie legend argued yes. They pointed out that the details visible when analysts chose to zoom in matched decades of eyewitness testimony. The smooth, dark surface echoed reports from the mid-20th century. The elongated rise resembled the neck-like form described in accounts dating back to 1933. Even the faint shadows beneath the surface seemed to reinforce the idea of a massive hidden body moving just below the waterline. To believers, these consistencies were too precise to dismiss as coincidence. Cryptozoologists hailed the photographs as a turning point. Some called them the strongest evidence since sonar scans in the 1980s revealed unexplained shapes moving through the depths of Loch Ness. Even the general manager of the Loch Ness Center, Nagina Ishak, weighed in, saying, "We've had numerous observations over the years, but this recent sighting has been particularly captivating." Skeptics, however, pushed back and argued that while the images were striking, they still lacked the definitive anatomical detail needed to prove the existence of a previously undiscovered creature. Independent digital experts reinforced the skepticism. While confirming that the photographs showed no signs of manipulation, they noted that the absence of editing is not the same as the presence of a monster. Authenticity of the image does not equal authenticity of the subject, one analyst explained. The Loch Ness Center, while excited, made it clear the mystery was far from solved. Ishak went on to say, "As always, we are committed to solving the mystery of Nessie once and for all. Our previous collaborations with the University of Aberdeen and Loch Ness Exploration allowed us to advance our research efforts significantly, and this potential sighting is a reminder that the mystery of Loch Ness is far from solved. We continue to explore every possibility and are committed to uncovering the truth." What became clear was that the photographs had re-energized the global conversation. Believers felt vindicated, skeptics remained cautious, and the general public was once again captivated by the enduring enigma of Loch Ness. Were these terrifying, zoomed-in frames the long-awaited breakthrough? Or were they simply the most convincing example yet of nature tricking the eye? One truth stood out above all others. Definitive answers remained as elusive as the monster itself. The mystery continues. The images taken in 2025 did more than capture global attention. They reignited one of the world's longest-running debates. For the Loch Ness region, the timing was significant. Tourism had already seen an increase after the March sighting earlier that year, and the new photographs drew thousands more to the highlands. Hotels filled, boat tours surged, and the Loch Ness Center reported record attendance as visitors came hoping to glimpse what one man's camera had seemingly revealed. For researchers, the photographs marked a new chapter in their work. Teams equipped with sonar, drones, and hydrophones renewed their efforts, determined to build on the momentum. The mystery of Loch Ness is far from solved, one researcher explained, emphasizing that each sighting, whether confirmed or not, adds to the growing archive of unexplained data. The images, they said, were a reminder that we cannot yet close the book on this legend. Public fascination also extended beyond Scotland. Media outlets compared the Nessie photographs to other cryptid legends, from Bigfoot in North America to the Yeti in the Himalayas. Yet none carried the same mix of natural setting, cultural heritage, and historical continuity as Loch Ness. The stillness of the loch, the sheer depth of its waters, and the consistency of eyewitness reports gave the story an enduring credibility, unmatched by other myths. Even so, the images remained unresolved. To believers, they stood as the strongest case yet for the existence of a large, unidentified creature lurking in Loch Ness. To skeptics, they were compelling but inconclusive, an example of how mystery thrives in ambiguity. Both sides, however, agreed on one point. The photographs were unlike anything previously documented, and they ensured that the legend of Nessie would continue to captivate the world. In the end, the man who captured the photos never claimed certainty. only that he recorded what he saw. The rest is interpretation, analysis, and belief. And perhaps that is why the Loch Ness Monster endures. Because even with the clearest images ever taken, questions remain unanswered. If zooming in on these photographs only deepened the mystery, then what might still lie hidden in the vast, uncharted darkness of Loch Ness, waiting for the next camera to catch it? Do you think the Loch Ness Monster is even real? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.